Shabbat Shalom, happy Sabbath. Today's subject is the time of Jacob's trouble, the time of Jacob's trouble. In the book of Yirmeyahu, that's Jeremiah, if we anglicize him, chapter 30 and verse 7 says, "Ho, for great is that day, there is none like it, and it is the time of Jacob's distress, but he shall be saved out of it." Verse 8, "And it shall be in that day, declares Yahweh of hosts, that I break his yoke from your neck and tear off your bonds, and the foreigners no more enslave them." This passage here seems to speak to our own colonial experience in the sense that the people from Al-Kibulan were people who were enslaved, and some are still in slavery, voluntary slavery, in that they have continued to do things that offend Yahweh. So we want to look at the end time scenario that is depicted in the book of Daniel, as was read earlier for us. And we're going to look into the scriptures this morning to see the impact of it in terms of what it means to us. As I've long since said, that prophecy is not linear. It is cyclical in the sense that it is not a prediction and a fulfillment. It is cyclical in that they keep repeating themselves until there is an ultimate fulfillment. So this morning, we're going to look into the word of Yah, particularly in the book of Chiseon, Revelation. You will find that the genre of literature that is in the book of Revelation is prophetically characterized by the distinctive blend of divine revelation, dreams, symbols, and the celestial visitations, defined as the apocalypse. That's what the book of Revelation is. And due to the very nature of the book, some readers are prone to conjecture, to give information that are not in the word of Yah, which invites a range of interpretations to the book. And this is amplified by the book's own unique literary genre and its historical context. The book of Revelation, it assumes that you have read the rest of the Bible, because it is the book that encapsulates all the other books. So this morning, we want to look at this distinctive blend of divine revelation, dreams and symbols, and the celestial visitations that we have come to look at. In most classical prophecy, it takes the form of "thus saith Yah," but not revelation. You know, this apocalyptic literature calls heavily on the vividity of visions and dreams and visitations, as I have said. So this morning we want to look at that, and I call your attention immediately to the book of Azon, and we will go to the 14th portion of that book, and we will remind ourselves of those messages that were sent out to the world. Revelation chapter 14, and I looked and saw a Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written upon their foreheads. And I heard a voice out of the Shemahim, like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder, and I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. And they sang a renewed song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders, and no one was able to learn that song except the 144,000. And so if you join me at verse 6, it says, and I saw another messenger flying in mid Shemahim, holding the everlasting good news to announce to those dwelling in the earth, even to every nation and tribe and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, revere Elohim and give esteem to him, because the hour of his judgment has come. I don't think we can exhaust this text. It has to be told and retold that the hour of Yah's judgment is come, and we must worship him. Why? Because soon after, there is going to be a fall of Babylon. And the third angel comes after that and let you know that if you take the mark of the beast, then you're finito. You're finished. So come with me to chapter 5 of the book of Revelation. We're going to spend some time in this prophetic book this morning, and so I crave your attention. And I saw in the right hand, chapter 5, verse 1 of Chiseon, I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, having been sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong messenger proclaiming with a loud voice, a strong messenger here making proclamation with a loud voice. Who is worthy to open the scroll and loose its seals? Who? Who is able to do that? What we're seeing here, and you must understand, is that the 7 seals to which we refer here in chapter 5 are the prophetic sequence that are described in this book. And they unfold through the different periods of time, and you see what's in them and what took place. And in that unfolding, you see the catastrophic events over time as we read. So the question is asked, who is able to open the seals? Who? Who is able to untie the tie of these seals? And the writer here, Yohanan, wants us to know that he cried. He started crying because no one in heaven, no one on the earth, no one beneath the earth was able to open the seals. Verse 4 says, and I wept much because no one was found worthy to open and read the scroll or look at it. Despite man's eloquence, its claim to being bright, to being sagacious, to being erudite. None. Whereas Adam could not open it. Noah could not open it. Abraham? No. David? Well, surely John the Baptist, the greatest of all the prophets, should be able to. Not him. Solomon? None. They could not open the seal. And one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See the Lion of the tribe of Yehudah." Who? The Lion of the tribe of Yehudah, the root of David, overcame to open the scroll and to loosen its 7 seals. And I looked and saw in the midst of the throne and of the 4 living creatures, and in the midst of the elders, a lamb standing as having been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 ruach of Elohim sent out into the earth. 7 spirits. Now, stay with me. The eyes of Yah, in a sense, are the 7 churches that were placed on the earth to be seen and to see what's happening in the earth and to be a witness, the churches. They are the 7 candlestick also. They are the light. And so they are there to speak to the people. And as a gateway to lead people to the kingdom of Yah. To be the customs officers of the kingdom. To make sure that no one comes through customs with those things that are prohibited, contraband. We're speaking now doctrinal and otherwise, behavior, conduct. Such things should not pass through the customs of the church, because the church is a gateway to the kingdom. And so we see the 7 seals. So we are going to address this by starting at the 6th seal, because we're now living in the time of the 6th seal. There's 7, and we know that the 7th seal is indeed the coming of Yeshua. So it shows you how close we are as a people Israel. And I'd like to define what I mean by Israel, in the sense that we don't live in the land, and we were not born in the land of Israel, but we are part of the diaspora of Israel, in the sense that we live in the commonwealth of Israel, because the place we live is a colony of the kingdom of Yah. Because it's the kingdom of heaven that has colonized the earth, and soon will send a king to come and reign on the earth. Yah says the gospel is the gospel of the kingdom, not of the church. And so we must preach the kingdom of Yah. And so come with me now as we join this writer here, Yohanan, and reread what he has written, given to him by Yeshua. Chapter 16 of Azon, and we will take verse 12 as our commencement text in this book. And the 6th messenger poured out his bowl on the great river Pirath. In the English, it says Euphrates. This River flows through Syria and Iraq before it joins the Tigris and finds its way meandering through lands to the Persian Gulf. So we're dealing with the Euphrates River. Bear this in mind because it is very, very important. And its water was dried up in order to prepare the way of the sufferings from the east. I want you to keep that in mind. Why? Because the context here is that Babylon is going to fall. Great Babylon. That's what we're dealing with. But if you understand how ancient Babylon fell, you will understand how Babylon the Great is going to fall, because as you well know, in chapter 45 of Isaiah, Yah said Cyrus, that he had chosen even before he was born, was his servant, and he was the one who dredged through and diverted the Euphrates River, the river we call Perath, and then he took Babylon, that fateful night in chapter 5, recorded there in Daniel chapter 5, when Belshazzar lost his life while he was having a party. And as we read this now, we see the Euphrates River, the river Perath, drying up. Any student of the word would think to himself, that's exactly how it happened when Babylon fell. Let's read on. Let's read on. The word continues. He says, and I saw out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits as frogs. For they are spirits of demons, doing signs which go out to the sovereigns of the entire world to gather them to the battle of that great day of Yahweh El Shaddai. Now understand what's happening. The word wants you to know that when you see the Euphrates River drying up, at this particular time, there is going to be 3 distinct and yet spirits into the leaders of the world. That's what it says. One is a false prophet, unclean they are, and one is the beast, and they are demons. They go out to the sovereigns of the entire world to gather them to battle. The spirits came out of the dragon. The dragon is Satan. That's what the word is saying. And the leaders take their instructions from these spirits that came from Satan. So we need not conjecture too widely as to why we're seeing and hearing some of the decisions that are being made in the world. This genre of scripture wants you to know that it is because of the end time, and all these things are coming together to usher in the time of Jacob's trouble, when the world will be such that it would be difficult to hear the truth. We need to understand that. It's going to be difficult. Let me give you an understanding of what it will look like. Come with me to chapter 22. and verse 11 of the same book. You will recall a few days ago I spoke about the Messiah in the sanctuary, and that he was the Kohen Agadal, is the high priest. And we know he was the high priest because he was not a priest on earth, says Hebrews 8:4. But now he mediates. We also said that not only is he our attorney, he's our judge. And therefore, we cannot lose the case because we're being tried by our defense attorney. He's not there to prosecute our case, he's there to defend us. And all we have to do is to obey him and confess our sin, tell him that, yes, we're guilty, and he will pardon our sins. In fact, he has already paid for it. We ought to know that. So he is in the sanctuary, and he's mediating that process where you and I can reach out to a mutual understanding of spiritual fulfillment. But don't let him come out. Don't let him come out before you repent and be baptized and be born again. Don't let that happen. Come with me to Revelation chapter 22, verse 11. Because when he comes out, this is what happens. Because there will be nobody now in the sanctuary making atonement for you. And so the world will be in a state, a catastrophic state, where now the believers, you and I and others, will have to live without a mediator in the sanctuary. You conceive that. It doesn't matter how you pray at that time, at the time of Jacob's trouble. Who are you praying to? Because there is no one in the sanctuary. None. Verse 11 validates that statement. He who does wrong, let him do more wrong. That's when Yeshua comes out. He who is filthy, let him be more filthy. He who is righteous, let him be more righteous. He who is Kodesh, let him be more Kodesh. Let him be holy. So I usually call this the Kodak moment. It's like Yeshua comes out of the sanctuary. He's no longer mediating for us. And so that picture taken, it's like a mug shot. Whatever pose you were caught in at that particular time when he came out, if you were caught in an unrighteous pose, that's how you will spend your eternity. If you were caught in a righteous pose, that's how you will spend your eternity. So it says, when he comes out, if you are righteous, you will continue to live righteously. And if you were wicked, you will continue to do your daddy's bidding, that's Satan. That's what the word is saying. Because we're on the sixth seal, and the seventh seal is indeed the coming of Yah. So if you're anything like me, you would be thinking in this time now, when the Euphrates is drying up, and we know that Yah in Revelation 14 had warned us that we ought to keep his laws, and we ought to keep his commandments and his ordinances and be faithful to him. But there are several people, thousands, millions of people not doing it. And you're asking, what kind of cognitive dissonance is this? You know that the breath you have belongs to the Creator. It's on loan to you from him. And he's asking you to take that breath and worship him and give praise and honor to him, because whoever comes near him must glorify him. But you don't do it. You know it to be true. You know what is required, but you're not doing it. So you have conflicting beliefs, conflicting values. How do you reconcile those things? How? And so, what are you doing? The question is asked. And let me show you what state the church is in, because you're right to ask, if ever you wanted to ask it, what is the church doing at this time? What is the church doing? Remember, Yah sent out 3 distinct messages to the people. The intent was for them to heed those messages in Revelation 14:6-12. In fact, some people call it the 3 angels' messages, and they consider it so important, and I agree with them. It's significant. But you can't be preaching it and not living it. You can't do that. So if you join me in 1 Timothy 4, and we'll take verse 1 and 2, it says, "Now the Ruach speaketh expressly, clearly, the perspicuity of the Ruach is such that there is no ambiguity here, whether patent or latent. It's clear." How does he speak? That in the latter times, the now times, the existential times, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits, the same spirits that the leaders of the world got from Satan, and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with hot iron. Did you get that? Their conscience seared with hot iron. Think of it this way. The hard drive is an element in a computer. Particularly the young people will know this. It's that physical aspect of the computer, not precluding the monitor, keyboard, and inside devices like microchips. The software is anything that instructs the hard drive what to do. So we have the relationship between the soft drive and the hard drive working to bring out an outcome. So think of it in terms of the computer. Therefore, your conscience is like the software, whereas the brain is the hardware. It's physical. Your nervous system is the hardware, but conscience is the software, which instructs you of what is right and what is wrong. But you don't listen to your own conscience. So once the conscience is sanctified by the word of Yah, John 17:17, sanctify them by thy word is true. So it testifies to us about what Yah deems right and what he deems wrong. But of course, one can suppress the conscience to appease the insolence of pride. You can do that. Therein, when one violates his or her own conscience on the day of judgment, the conscience become the witness against that person. You go to court, think of it this way, and your conscience begins to testify against you. The conscience will say, yes, I was at that particular place at the scene of the crime when you did this, because Yah will replay your conscience to you on the screenboard of time, and you will see exactly at what time you rejected the Sabbath, you rejected the festival, you rejected the truth like Pilate did. That's why the physician Luke in Acts 24 and verse 16, I strive always to keep my conscience clear before Yah and before man. We must always do that. So, as I indicated, that when Yeshua steps out of the sanctuary, it is a done deal. All that are supposed to be saved will be saved. He has already chosen his jewels. And those who remain wicked because they did not confess their sins, they chased after money, and they chased after pleasure and the things of the world. What? The writer in the book of Mark asks, will it profit you if you should gain the whole world and then lose your soul? What will it profit you? And so this morning it says that they have left the faith in 1 Timothy chapter 4. They have left the church, but they have not left church. People are still going to church, but they're not practicing the teachings of the Messiah. And the strange thing is, they don't even know that they have left the faith. They don't know that. Because they speak like this, well, this is the true church. How can the true church has the wrong message? How? The true church is one that follows the Lamb wherever he goeth. The Lamb is in the sanctuary. We all know that. He's making intercession. And he said, while I'm there, I want you to meet with me at Passover. I want you to meet with me at Shavuot, Pentecost. I want you to meet with me at Sukkot, at Tabernacle. But you don't turn up. But you're waiting for his coming. You're waiting for your judge, and you know you're guilty, and you're going to be sentenced. You have a case in court that is a capital offense. You know that. So my question comes back. What kind of dissonance is this? You're still doing it. You're dissonating. And so come with me now to Revelation chapter 17, because we're going to address the church now. It says, the writer here, Yohanan, and one of the seven messengers who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying to me, come, I shall show you the judgment of the great whore, sitting on many waters, with whom the sovereigns of the earth committed whoring, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her whoring. Hear me. And he carried me away in the Ruach into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast covered with the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. What's interesting here, as you take note, is that Yeshua has 7 assemblies. These are the 7 lights, the 7 candlesticks. You have Church of Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos. You have Thyatira, you have Sardis, you have Philadelphia, and Laodicea. We are Laodicea. We're Laodicea. And they covered not only the period of time stretching down from the early assembly, but they cover the spiritual nature and the condition of each church, period. And so this woman here, it says she's whoring, she's a harlot. And she is the mother of all other younger harlots. Sometimes I hear people read this and they say, oh, this has to do with that church and that church and that church. No, this is one church that has many daughters. Collectively, it's one church, one family of churches. Understand that. The woman is symbolized here, the church is symbolized as a woman. According to Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. So when I hear people saying, well, it's not my church, you are the church. Let me ask you a question. Can you tell me any one of the seven, or I should say, any one of the thousands of churches existing today that did not come out of the Protestant Reformation? Which one? They came out of the Protestant Reformation. Regardless of the names, the titles they put on themselves. So this woman here is the mother of all the churches. That's what the apostle wants you to know. And he says, he saw the woman sitting on a scarlet beast covered with names. Names. Did you hear that? Names. Denominational names of blasphemy. Having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones. Perhaps as you read the scripture and you read it with history, you know purple was something that came out of Tyre and Sidon at a particular time. And today's Lebanon, the blue that the kings wore, the royalty wore during that time, was made from sea snails. And so it's telling us that the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold and precious stone and pearl, holding in her hand a golden cup filled with abomination and the filthiness of her whoring. She's feeding all the churches. She's feeding all the churches. And up on her forehead was a name written, Secret, Babel the Great, the mother of the whores, and the abomination of the earth. This particular woman, this particular church, is the abomination of the earth, but she's feeding the others. That's the word of Yah. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the Kodashim and with the blood of the witnesses of Yeshua, and having seen her, I marveled greatly, says Yohanan. And the messenger said to me, why did you marvel? Let me explain to you the secret of the woman and of the beast she rides. Remember, the beast is a state. and the church is riding the state. Church and state together. And so usually the church is getting the state to make laws that is favorable to her. The beast that you saw was and is not and is about to come up out of the pit of the deep and goes to destruction. And those dwelling on the earth, those names are not written in the book of life. Wow. Their names are not written in the book of life, meaning they're lost. We're here singing, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. But we're made to understand, if you continue to sing that song when Yeshua comes out of the temple, it's a waste of time. No one can be saved after that. The door is shut. It is done, says Yeshua. And there are 7 suffering, 5 are falling, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he comes, he has to remain a little while. 7 kingdoms. Yohanan wants you to know that at the time he received the message from heaven to give to the churches, 5 of those kingdoms had gone, passed. Egypt had gone. The empire of Egypt had gone. Assyria had gone. Babylon had gone. Media Persia had gone. Greece had gone. That's the 5th one. So he's letting you know that the time I received that, Rome was the 6th. And when Rome fell apart, who came up? Who replaced Rome? So we have to go back and look at the role of when Rome split. You remember when Rome became too big, it split, and you had the western side of the empire and the eastern side of the empire, and the headquarters was changed and moved to Constantinople. That's where it moved to, which is today in Turkey. That's where it moved to. And so Daniel now picks up the theme in chapter 2, and Daniel is before time explaining his dream, which is captured here in the book of Revelation. Daniel says, O king, you saw an image, head of gold, that's you, Babylon, and an inferior kingdom comes, Media Persia, silver, then Greece, then a 4th kingdom. And this 4th kingdom was different from the rest. It split. And it had 10 toes. We're living in the toe times. But what some of the scholars have done, you know what they've done? They have put all 10 toes on 1 foot. I've never seen a man with 10 toes on 1 foot. Have you? So at one time, they all believed this is to do with all of Europe, all the common market and all the countries in Europe until it passed 10. So they didn't know where to go now. No, that's not what Daniel said. He says, 5 will be in the east and 5 will be in the west. He clearly tells us that the beast had 10 toes on 2 feet. So what we have to watch now is for the emerging empire that came after Rome, that was the seventh, which will emerge. That's what the word says. And if you have any other contention with this, may I refer you to Isaiah chapter 8 and verse 20. If they speak anything that is not of this word, there is no light in them. None. And so come with me to 2 Timothy 4, and we'll take verses 2 and 3, because the word says, preach the word. Preach it. Be instant in season and out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having hitching ears, having delinquent ears. That's the kind of people that we're dealing with now. They don't want to know this. You know what they say? Our church do not teach this. And the word says that in the time of trouble, the world's going to be in chaos. And we can see the beginning of that now. We're seeing that there's war here and there's war over there, and they're planning more, and they're coming strategically, and they're boasting about their weapons. But yes, it's going to lead to destruction. When they say it's peace, it's sudden destruction. And so the word in Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 15 said, that is what Yahweh says. A voice is heard in Ramah, mourning and great weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. Hold it there. Why is Rachel weeping and not Leah? Leah has 6 sons. Rachel has 2. Why is the woman with less children weeping than the one who has more? Why? It's a serious question, and it requires an answer. Well, let me remind you, because you well know, that Rachel was the mother of Joseph and Benjamin. So she had Joseph and Benjamin. And we know the story very well, that Joseph was sold in slavery. That's us. And he went to Egypt. He went to North Africa. And he married an Egyptian woman, and he had 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And before he passed away, his father, their grandfather, Jacob, decided to bless them. And you can see that in the book of Bereshit, Genesis chapter 48 and verse 16. We're told that before he died, he took these North African boys and he blessed them, and he said, put my name on these 2. Put my name Israel on these 2 North African boys. They are Israel. Did you get that? Let me say this. All the sons of Israel, all 12, are children of Israel. They're children of Jacob. But only these 2 boys receive the blessing a special blessing, making them Israel. They were taken in, adopted by Jacob. The other children did not receive that blessing. So when these boys left, the 10 tribes that makes them up, the land was now called the children of Judah, because only Judah was left. Only Judah was left. And what's clear also that we seem to jump over when we speak is that Joseph married an Egyptian woman. Meant that the two boys were bronze in color, black. It's kind of obvious. And so we don't have to skate over it. We're not talking about color in terms of redemption. You know, we're talking about color in terms of their heritage and the fact that they were righteous. That's what saves us, not our color. We got to be righteous before Yah. We can't beat our chest and say, you know, I'm blacker than you, or I'm browner than you, or I'm whiter than you. That counts for nothing, because Yah made all nations out of one blood. We've got to understand that. But I just want to point out that these boys, they received the blessing. So at a time when people are looking around and asking, well, who is Israel? It's a fair question. But no analysis of that question can be complete without the factor of what happened here in Genesis chapter 48. Because when you go to the book of Chronicles, what do you see? What do you actually see? You want to come there with me, don't you? Debris Ayamin. Will you come? That's the book of First Chronicles. And the word says, we're going to take chapter 5. Will you come with me? And as for the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Yisrael, he was the firstborn. But because he profaned his father's bed, naughty boy, his birthright was given to his sons, to the sons of Joseph. Don't miss that. Reuben is the firstborn of Yisrael. But the birthright, hear me, the birthright is the land of Israel. It says, I want to make it clear, I did not write this. Holy men of old, the word said, they were breathed on by the Ruach. I'm just reading it. Let's start again. As for the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Yisrael, he was the firstborn. We know that. But because he profaned his father's bed, his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph. The sons of Joseph are Ephraim and Manasseh, the same two North African boys, Al-Kibulan boys that I spoke to earlier, sons of Israel, so that the genealogy is not listed according to the birthright. So when you hear people beating their chest and say, I was born in Israel. No, Israel was born in Egypt. Israel was born in North Africa. Check it out. For Yehuda prevailed over his brothers, and from him came a ruler, although the birthright was Joseph. Did you get me? I spoke last week and I made the point about the mixed multitude. Israel was born in North Africa. That's the word of Yah. If they speak not according to this word, there's no truth in them. You see, one man's truth is another man's falsehood. One man's clarity is another man's mud. And when we have doubts, when there is ambivalence, we must come back to Yah's word. So as people navigate the nuances of text and history as to who is Israel, it's clear. Who does Gaza belong to? And what are we going to do with Gaza? Yah says the land is mine. It must not be sold. And so he is preserving the land for Israel, not by birthright, but by righteousness in Yeshua. We've got to understand these things. So the word is telling us that we've got to get things right. Isn't that right? We've got to get it right. So when Yah says, obey me, and you will be unto me a kingdom of priests. We have examples, don't we? When the people did not obey Yah, he sent them into captivity. And our people, the descendants of Ephraim and Manasseh, they were put into captivity, and people picked them up from West Africa and brought them into slavery into the Americas and to Britain. And because Yah had promised that if you did not obey me and keep my commandment, according to what's written in Deuteronomy chapter 28, he says, I will send you back on ships to Egypt, meaning bondage. Did you hear me? He said, I will send you back on ships to Egypt in bondage. Which other group of people came to the Americas and to Britain on ships as slaves? Tell me, please. Go into your archives, into the galleries, and let me know which other group of people came on ships to America, to Brazil, to Britain, to Liverpool, to the docks in Bristol as slaves. Tell me. Tell me, please. Inquiring minds want to know. So you must conclude that those people were part of the original people, Jews, black Jews. It's in the word. It's in the word. So it doesn't surprise me at all that when Haile Selassie, the 225th descendants of Solomon, came to Britain to spend time while in exile, he chose Bath, Bristol. That's where he spent his time. That's after going to Jerusalem, because he knows his roots. It's no accident why he took at his coronation, they said he is the title King of Kings. Selassie. So Yahweh now, as we close, is making it clear that we ought to obey him. And so today is a Sabbath. Come with me to Ezekiel chapter 20, and we will take verse 12. Moreover, I gave them my Sabbaths. These are plural Sabbaths. You know, even those who keep the Sabbath, they think, yeah, he's saying, keep this Sabbath and next week's Sabbath. And that's not what he's saying. When he talks about a plural Sabbath, it includes the feast day Sabbath. That's what he's talking about. So in Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 12, he said, moreover, also, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign. A what? A sign between me and them, and they might know that I am Yahweh that sanctify them. That's what he said. Shall we take verse 20 of the same passage? And hallow my Sabbath, again, plural Sabbath. How many Sabbath did Yah make of creation? 1 7th-day Sabbath, but he made plural feast day Sabbaths. So when he talks about Sabbath, he's talking about the feast day Sabbath. And he said, and all of my Sabbaths, that they shall be a what? A sign between me and you, and ye may know that I am Yahweh your Elohim. Shall we take Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 2? Ye shall keep my Sabbaths, plural Sabbaths again, and reverence my sanctuary. So the distinction must be made between my Sabbaths and the Sabbath in scriptural texts. My Sabbaths refers to the collection of appointed times, the Moedim, the annual Sabbaths like Pesach, Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. So when the word here says, keep my Sabbath, and you only keep the weekly Sabbath, you have invoked James 2:10 unto yourself. If you offend in one point, you're guilty of all of them. And so let it be a settled case that as we approach the end of time, we see these demonic spirits that have been imbibed by men who are not thinking straight, are making decisions unwittingly, ushering in the time of Jacob's trouble. But let us make sure that we bring our petitions to Yah and settle our case so that we might be saved in his kingdom and our names be written in or retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. In Yeshua's name, I pray, amen, hallelujah.